Hi, I'm Dave Hilowitz. So this video is about recording violins. As many of you know, in addition to being a composer, I'm also a violinist, and I often find myself needing to record little bits of string stuff, like violin parts, viola parts, so that I can slot them into whatever I'm working on. In fact, right now I'm working on an electronica track, and I need to record some viola parts, so I figured I'm going to be recording anyway. I'm going to be setting up the mic, so I might as well make a video about it so you can see what's been working for me. Okay, let's get started. Before you get started, you need a recording interface. This is the thing that actually gets the sound from the microphones into your computer. Of course, computers actually do have microphone inputs, or at least most of them do, but they tend to be really awful, so the less we say about those, the happier we'll be. As far as audio interfaces go, you don't need like a fancy, expensive one, just something with relatively quiet preamps. The fancy, expensive ones do sound a little bit better, but generally speaking, if you have extra cash, it's better spent on nicer microphones rather than a nicer audio interface. The cheap ones are still pretty darn good. A great choice is the Focusrite Scarlett Solo, or this thing, the Scarlett 2i2. Both of these plug into the computer via the USB input, and yeah, they can be had for like $100, $120 on sale. Nothing too shockingly expensive. Okay, now that we've talked about these, we should talk about what we're going to be plugging into these, which are, of course, microphones. So the two biggest factors that determine the sound of the violin when it's recorded are the microphone that you use and the room that you record in. Before we can talk about either of those things, though, we also have to talk about what our actual overall purpose for the recording is. Generally speaking, there are two ways that you can use the violin sound. You can use it as a solo instrument, like it's a lead melodic instrument, or you can use it as an ensemble instrument, like maybe you're going to record 4 of the same part and you're going to layer them in this very specific way. That will determine what kind of a room you pick, and it'll determine actually what microphone configuration you pick. So you need to know that right off the bat. Okay, so let's get back to talking about microphones. The 3 most common types of microphones are dynamic, condenser, and ribbon. Dynamic ones are the ones that you see people holding when they're doing karaoke, that like iconic traditional kind of ice cream cone shaped microphone. Those are dynamic microphones. The most famous of those microphones is the Shure SM58. It's a classic microphone. Everyone should probably own one of them. They're great for recording guitar amps. They're great for recording drums, live vocals. Unfortunately, they're not that great for strings. So yeah, don't go out and buy an SM58 if you're going to record your violin, because it won't sound bad, but it won't sound as good as the other 2 possibilities. The second kind of mic is condenser mics. Condenser mics offer huge amounts of detail, huge amounts of clarity. They're a great choice for recording strings, with one caveat, which is that sometimes that detail, sometimes that clarity can be translated as harshness, just this very brash kind of strident sound that needs to be EQ'd. So as long as you're willing to do some EQing and to really like listen critically to what you recorded, these are a great choice. In order to use a condenser mic, you need this thing called phantom power, which is actually an electrical current, a voltage that gets sent out from the preamp out to the microphone. Luckily, most audio interfaces offer phantom power. It's usually just a little switch that you can press. So highly recommend condenser mics. And finally, the third type of microphone is ribbon mics. Generally speaking, most professional string recordings are going to use ribbon mics. High frequencies can be quite harsh on close-mic'd stringed instruments, and engineers prefer ribbon mics because they actually dampen some of those high frequencies. Unfortunately, good ribbon mics are far more expensive than decent condenser mics. It's also worth mentioning that ribbon mics do not require that phantom power voltage that we talked about for the condenser mics. In fact, if you put phantom power through a ribbon mic, you actually could destroy it. So word to the wise. Since ribbon mics tend to be really expensive, I'm going to be focusing on condenser mics in this video. The price range for these is huge. Varies from $50 to like $10,000. But you can usually do pretty well with a few $100s. The Rode NT5 are a great choice for stringed instruments. A while back, I ordered a bunch of cheap microphones, and the ones I ended up liking the most were the Rode M5s. You can get them for like, I think $200 for a pair of them. Really great budget microphones. Oh, one more thing. What about pickups? I can already hear somebody saying like, can I just put a pickup on the bridge of my violin and yeah, call it a day? The sad answer is no, you can't. If you've ever recorded with a pickup, you know why. The sound from a pickup is really, really different from the room sound that you'd be getting from a microphone. It can be great for jazz or for rock, depending on the style of music. But if you're looking for that timeless, classic violin sound, you pretty much have to go with a microphone. This is the sound of the pickup. And this is the sound coming out of the microphone. One neat trick, if you have enough inputs on your recording interface, is you can actually record both and mix them together. Sometimes having the pickup signal actually allows you to add some like presence and depth that is missing from the room mics. So that can be cool too. Here's what that sounds like. One thing to consider is whether or not you want a stereo signal. If you're going to be recording in a large space, having a matched pair of microphones, like one for the left side and one for the right side, can give you just way more of a sense of the room. If you're going to record that way, a good thing to invest in is like a stereo mounting bar. These clip right to the end of your mic stand, and you can put your microphones in this like cool 45-degree angle pattern, which is just really great for picking up the entire stereo field. That being said, if you're recording like an intimate solo violin piece, you may actually just want to stick to a mono signal. Aside from your choice of microphone, the other super important factor in how your violin sounds is actually your choice of room and how you place the microphones within that space. The distinctive sound of the violin comes from a bunch of different things resonating at the same time. You've got, of course, the strings, then you've got the bridge, you've got the top of the violin, you've got the back of the violin, and then you've actually got the room. And the room is often overlooked, but it's just so important to how the violin ends up sounding. A lot of the warm sound that we associate with a violin actually comes from the kinds of rooms that violins are typically recorded in. You can take the crummiest student violin in the world, and if you play it in a beautiful concert hall, it'll sound great. The recording location makes a huge difference to the character of the sound. For example, in my house, the best place to record is actually right in the entranceway. There's a big staircase, and when you play there, the sound kind of travels up the shaft of the staircase and fills the space, and you get this wonderful natural reverb. Somewhat pitchy, but you get the idea. Now, if I record that same scale back in my bedroom, where there's just carpeting and bedding and all kinds of stuff that absorbs the sound, it's going to sound dead and actually quite harsh. So you definitely want to experiment with the different places you have available to you. Mic placement is another very important factor, and really all I can say is experiment a ton. Conventional wisdom is that when you're recording a violin, you should place the microphone diagonally above the strings. So it's basically about 3 to 4 feet above the bridge. And I've done this a ton of times, and every time I've done it, I've been disappointed with the results. It always comes off sounding just way, way harsher than I would like. It picks up all the sound of the bow, and I'm just never happy with the results. I did a bunch of experimenting in this room, my studio, and I found that the best results actually come from putting a stereo microphone at one end of the studio over here and then going all the way to the other end, and it resonates throughout the room, and I pick up the vibrations of the room. I have these nice hardwood floors, and for some reason, being way over there and having the microphone way over here sounds just way, way better than when I'm in the conventional position. So your mileage may vary. Okay, so we've got the microphone, we've got the position, we've got the audio interface, we've got everything we need. What about software? When it comes to software, you've got like a million different options, and I don't have any concrete advice. I use mostly Reaper to record violin because it has a really great take system. It's important to choose a piece of software with a comfortable workflow so that you can, have a nice long count-in with a metronome and really have time to get yourself situated before it's time for you to actually start playing. When you're recording alone, as I am, it can be difficult to run over to your computer, hit record, run back to the spot where you want to be standing so that you get a good sound, and then to start playing when you hit your cue. You need a lot of lead time, and you really want to kind of get a routine down. Also, you want something with good punch in and punch out functionality, because chances are you're going to want to fix notes here and there, redo passages, edit between takes, that kind of thing. Recording violins, especially in the context of pop music and electronica and stuff like that, is a lot like recording vocals, if you've ever done that, where you might actually be comping together 5 or 6 different takes to get your best possible take. I find that Reaper is actually a really good, really inexpensive package for that kind of editing. Ableton Live, which is the other thing that I use constantly for a lot of stuff, just added multi-take recording to Ableton Live 11, and it's fantastic. I use it all the time for violin stuff, so that's another option. Speaking of software, there are a few effects plugins that are just completely invaluable to recording violins. One of them is RX, the noise reduction plugin. If you record an environment like I do, where there's constant industrial hum from AC systems or computers or whatever, being able to remove that noise electronically is very, very helpful. The next plugin category is EQ. As I mentioned before, condenser mics can make violins sound a little bit harsh out of the gate, so having something to tamp down those frequencies is key. I generally try to have 2 EQs on hand. One EQ to do those targeted cuts, if there's a specific frequency that's bugging me, I'll reach for this parametric EQ. If I want something that's broader and more characterful, Sound toys have a very nice reverb called ZQ, which I found to be very gentle on violin signals. In fact, sometimes I'll just take that high knob and turn it all the way down, and it will basically fix my complaints with the harshness. So yeah, highly recommended. And the final plugin category is, of course, reverb. Since we're probably not going to be recording in a concert hall, the next best thing is software reverb. For that, I use Valhalla Room. I've been using it for a few years now, and I think it sounds really natural on strings. I'll generally add it to the bus within my recording software and then just turn up the send level as needed. It makes a huge difference. Check out what this viola bit sounds like without reverb. And check it out now with reverb. Okay, I think that's it. Hope this video was helpful. If you like that track, there's a link in the description to this video. If you enjoyed this video, it'd be great if you could hit like. And if you haven't done so already, now is a great time to subscribe to the channel. It's free and you'll be notified whenever I make one of these videos. See you next time.